Have you ever had a student who seems to engage in problem behavior just to control their environment? Or maybe they really don't like hearing no. Sometimes maybe it's just because they can't wait if reinforcement is delayed. If this sounds like one of your students, stay tuned while we summarize Gregory Hanley's work on skill-based treatment, or SBT. Now, before we start, I want to add a disclaimer. This is a very oversimplification of this process, really meant to give you an overview. The actual technique takes much longer to implement. And if you're truly interested in PFAs and SBTs, Hanley's research is publicly available. And to those who are committed to learning how to implement the process with high fidelity and to ensure meaningful outcomes, please check out the FTF Behavioral Consulting website. Hi, I'm Shayna, and together with my partner Shira, we are How to ABA. We're behavior analysts that create weekly content about how to teach children with autism so that they make real progress. And we create shareable resources to make your job just a little easier. Today's topic is all about Hanley's skill-based treatment. And if you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on new video releases. We get a lot of questions regarding Hanley's approach to tolerance and delay. I totally recommend taking his course. It's phenomenal. Based on his course, we've created this data sheet. He's got his own data sheets as well that you're able to use. We just wanted to really try and make this one user-friendly. So the first thing we did is we defined all of his acronyms because there's a lot of them. And then we wrote out the steps that he recommends. And typically he's got a few pre-teaching steps for the skill-based treatment. You know, he says to make sure that you're doing a PFA, which is a practical functional assessment. So continue to do that. I am not going to go through that. I'm going to go through more of the skills-based treatment piece of it. So after you've done his practical functional assessment and conducted your ISCA, then you're going to go on to treatment. You're going to teach. So here's our simple TA of everything that you should be doing. So the very first thing you should be doing is what he would call the sweaty man. You're going to be teaching a man a really simple, what he calls an FCR. FCR stands for functional communication response. So you're teaching a functional communication response, just one word, or if the child's nonverbal, a sign or a peck or one button on his augmentative communication system. That's all you're doing. Hanley also states that this should be done in a mass trial format, and it should be done within anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. It shouldn't be taking weeks and weeks and weeks to teach this. It is really a quick way to teach manding. Done. After they've got, the simple FCR, then you're going to move on to something like a more complex FCR, meaning something like, building in a phrase like, may I have blah, 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 blah. If they can't talk that much, but they're using augmentative communication, maybe they press two buttons. The first button is may I have, and the second button is break or my way or no thank you or whatever it is. And then after they've been taught that, you go on to the next step, which is what they call expanding the FCR. So you can include excuse me, or tapping somebody on the shoulder, raising their hand, getting someone's attention, facing the speaker, really just cleaning up that man. So the first step, the simple FCR, is a really sloppy man. It's just, I need you to use your words instead of hitting me or destroying the environment. By the time you get to the third step here, the expanding the FCR, you really want like a clean man, excuse me, a really nice voice, the speaker facing the listener, all of that type of thing. Once you have that, then you get into, the fourth step, which would be, the listener or, the receiver saying, yeah, sure. So up to this point, it's like, okay, as soon as they request, you give them their way. Yep, absolutely. Blah, blah, blah. By the fourth step, you're kind of delaying that consequence a little bit. So they ask and you go, well, yeah, sure. So you're still saying yes, but it's just a little tiny bit of a delay. Step 5 here is where it really gets interesting. Hanley says to talk about teaching some type of denial phrase. So, it's all great. We teach kids that, they mand, they get what they want. They mand, they get what they want. But what happens sometimes when people say no? Kids can't handle that. Like they just can't handle it. I can't handle that saying, if I'm told no sometimes, right? So we need to teach some type of response like, okay, sure, no problem, something. If a child's nonverbal, if an individual is nonverbal, even just a thumbs up or a smile or something. And that's what we want to teach for step 5. Now, this blue printing goes back to this. This is Hanley's, is modified from his approach. And basically he says, you teach the functional communication response. And, even when you're on to, later teaching steps, you always want to reinforce this mand at least 20% of the time. So when an individual communicates and mans for something, you don't always say, no, you can't have it. 20% of the time you say, yep, no problem, you can have it. And access is granted, right? Now the other 80%, you're going to say, nope, you can't have that, right? But 20% of that, as soon as they say okay, 20% of the time, they're going to receive reinforcement. The other 60%, they're going to have to do some type of variable work or play expectations for that, and then they get reinforcement. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. So on step 5 here, you're going to teach that okay response, but 40% of the time, they're still going to get their way when they ask. Okay. And then step 6, as soon as they've got that okay response, Hanley says to go and teach what's called CAB, which is, going back to the acronyms here, it's a contextually appropriate behavior. So, if you're teaching, hey, stand up, come sit down, come play with me, whatever it is, that's what you're trying to teach. So you're just trying to teach that disengagement from what he calls a happy, relaxed, engaged state, or like disengage from fun and come on over to me. So as soon as they disengage from their preferred items, that's what's called a CAB 1, contextually appropriate behavior. We're just teaching that 20% of the time when they say, I want my way, no problem, take it. 20% of the time when you say no, they say, okay, take it. And then the 60% of the time, you need to say, no, come this way. When they do, 60% of the time it's granted. Okay, that's where it gets tricky. Step 7, we just want to start, increasing that contextually appropriate behavior. So CAB 2, and again, you can define this any way you want. This is really an example, but CAB 2 would be transitioning from, their happy, relaxed, engaged state to some type of alternative area. So they're physically leaving their toys and coming to a work table or going into another room, doing something, but they're getting ready to listen and learn. And as soon as they're ready to listen and learn, so you say, hey, oh, come on, come sit. And they come over and they sit down. Great, you've done it. See you later. Go back to your happy, relaxed, engaged state. And then by step 3, you need 1 to 3 responses, or you could do units of time. So, it's not only that they need to disconnect from whatever they're doing and come to you, but then they also need to do, 1 to 3 responses. These can be high probability responses. It's just really cooperation with some type of single relevant activity. Hey, do this puzzle. You can put 3 puzzle pieces in and go. And then you just gradually increase those responses. So, by step 9, you've got, 1 to 5 responses with multiple activities, not just a single relevant activity. And then by step 10, CAB 5, you've got 1 to 10 responses with multiple activities, something pretty easy to intermediate. Then you're increasing that to multiple activities while being challenged. And then you can generalize that across materials, activities, etc. When you're looking at this, you're going to take, everywhere from CAB 1 to CAB 6 and individualize this to the learner. You've got one learner who may be just working on puzzles. You've got another learner who's actually following complex directions. And another learner still who's doing, math questions, and that's what they're doing, math and science or something. So this is all individualized, but that is a quick overview of a task analysis for the skill-based treatment from Hanley's approach. If you want to access this data sheet, come check out How to ABA. On our membership site, we have these data sheets for download, as well as a whole bunch of other data sheets available. In summary, we discussed Hanley's skill-based treatment program for teaching tolerance and delay, and we reviewed our simplified data sheet that corresponds with the program. As mentioned at the beginning, this is a very oversimplification of this process. We do strongly encourage people to seek out ongoing training and mentorship in the implementation process. There's no shortcuts to success, particularly when supporting individuals with severe problem behavior. For more information on Hanley's skill-based treatment, click the link in and around this video or in the description to claim your free SBT description. We also encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future videos, and leave a like and comment below if you have further questions.